Good morning. I thought that since yesterday we heard Auden's poem in memory of W.B. Yeats, that today we ought to hear a little Yeats. Sorry, I've got a cat sitting on my notes. So Yeats was an Irish poet. He was born in 1865 and he died in 1939. And in addition to being a poet, he was a playwright. He was somebody who was instrumental in kind of moving theater forward in Ireland. He was an Irish nationalist eventually and a senator in Ireland. He also, he was like a mystic. He was like interested in the occult, and he had, seances and visions, and that really informs his work, as does his studies of Irish mythology and the work of poets who came before him. And then he in turn is a super influential figure of English literature. And the poem that I have chosen to read is perhaps his most famous poem. If you've ever taken like a basic English poetry class of the 20th century, you've probably read The Second Coming, which was written in 1919 in the aftermath of World War I, and which was published in 1920. And The Second Coming, it's such an influential poem. It's it's really left a mark on the culture, and I think it's remixed and reimagined and reinterpreted by artists. It has been many times. My favorite version of which is Joni Mitchell's song "Slouching Towards Bethlehem." I forget what album the original song comes from, but there's the 2002 version from her album Travelogue, where she's backed by a full orchestra and like a choir. And I just love that version. It's so dramatic and theatrical and over the top and exciting, which so befits the subject matter of the poem. And every time I hear the words of this poem, I cannot help but hear Joni Mitchell singing them, along with some of her own words that she included. But anyway, yeah, great song. So The Second Coming, just by way of introduction, it's a mysterious poem. It's a poem with really strong imagery. And I guess the only thing I want to say about it is that it is understood to be a response to World War I, but it also has this quality to it, which is like it's searching for an answer to the question, what comes after crisis? What new forms of seeing come after crisis? Which I think is a perennially important theme, and one that is particularly relevant today. The Second Coming. Turning and turning in the widening gyre, the falcon cannot hear the falconer. Things fall apart, the center cannot hold. Mere anarchy is loosed upon the world, the blood-dimmed tide is loosed, and everywhere the ceremony of innocence is drowned. The best lack all conviction, while the worst are full of passionate intensity. Surely some revelation is at hand. Surely the second coming is at hand. The second coming. Hardly are those words out when a vast image out of Spiritus Mundi troubles my sight. Somewhere in sands of the desert, a shape with lion body and the head of a man, a gaze blank and pitiless as the sun, is moving its slow thighs, while all about it reel shadows of the indignant desert birds. The darkness drops again, but now I know that 20 centuries of stony sleep were vexed to nightmare by a rocking cradle. And what rough beast, its hour come round at last, slouches toward Bethlehem to be born? Thank you.